Welcome to How Preschool Teachers Do It.
This is Alison Kentos. I am an early childhood educator.
And this is Cindy Tarabush. I am an early childhood consultant.
This podcast is for parents and early childhood professionals.
Let our experience and research-based knowledge become your guide. Happy Monday, preschool peeps.
Hi, peeps.
Do I usually say happy Monday or good Monday?
I think happy.
Okay.
Oh,
all
you're
right.
going to make me listen to last week's just to find out.
I am. But I feel like we should have a thing. We should have a thing we say now that we're back to just every Monday.
Well, guess what? Now it's Happy Monday.
Okay, Happy Monday. We're going to go from there. Happy Monday, people. So welcome back to the podcast. And we're so pleased at how many people have been listening to us through this health crisis and the whole everything that's going on in our world right now, the protests, the health crisis,
it's a lot going on.
It's a lot.
So a lot to deal
we
with.
appreciate everybody who's been downloading these, and we've just increased at, this podcast is really for podcast providers for you to listen to, but we've been putting it on YouTube since the beginning of the crisis, and I saw an increase in our subscribers on YouTube today too. So thank you all. If you have recently subscribed, hey.
Well, I got to do some sort of dance for all my peeps online.
Okay. So today's topic is one that Alison and I have been talking about a lot because we've been seeing it on our social media, people discussing this. And we said, we have to talk about this on the podcast because it's just the truth. And I've seen people sort of on both sides of this, but the topic is basically, why are we not using this time now to improve distance teaching practices? What are people thinking?
Are you thinking, people?
I hope that people who are listening to this are that you live and or work in a place where teaching staffs are being encouraged to beef up their practices with distance learning.
Yes. If you are in that kind of district, please let us know. I really want to hear what you guys are doing. Yeah,
because oh my God, what a waste of time this is. And here's why. Alison and I came up with 4 basic points about why we need to be using this time now and not be scrambling again in the future.
Oh my God. Yeah. And it was a scramble. It was a big time scramble.
It was a
scramble. We had 2 days to plan it. And that was because my district was on top of it. Some people, I think they were like, oh, by the way, we're closed tomorrow. And they're like, hey, wait, what? What do you mean? No, why are we scrambling around again? Why?
Also,
for that now.
Just because you've become a Zoom / Google Classroom / whatever other software you're using knowledgeable, doesn't mean we know everything there is to know about virtual teaching. So here are the 4 main points that I jotted down when we were talking, Alison. One was the fact that we may all end up in lockdown. Again, we don't know. Look what's going on across our country.
It's going to happen probably.
It may happen, it may not, but I think we need to be prepared.
We need to be prepared for that, yeah.
Right? Let's be prepared for the fact that we may go all into lockdown. In the meantime, many, many places are going to have hybrid learning systems where children are in school settings for part of the time, but learning virtually part of the time.
Yeah.
You need to make sure we're doing high quality teaching that other part of the time. We need to make sure that we're approaching whatever curriculum you use in a way where it's seamless from being in school to home to home.
Especially in that hybrid model where it's going to be every week you're going to be half virtual, half whatever. It needs to be seamless, I think. There was I feel like it's a little different you want it to be seamless when you jump to the virtual, but at least there you could have a transition period. There, you cannot have a transition period when you are we have 2 days of virtual and 2 days. There has to be this
Correct.
Just gotta keep going.
Can't, right. So there's no transition. You're here today. You're gone tomorrow. You're here today. You're online tomorrow. There's not. So we need for everyone to be really taking this time to think about the flow of curriculum that allows for the hybrid learning. And I hope that you all live and work in places where they are, but not everyone is, because I see and hear teachers talking about how no, we could be using this time to prepare, but we don't know what to expect and we don't know what to do. And that's partially the fault of states and government, because they're saying we don't absolutely have to make a decision until this point in August. But folks, this is going to take a lot of preparation and thought. That's not okay.
Yeah.
So those were 2 points that we can discuss. Here's another one. For some children, virtual learning has been great.
Yes.
For some children, it's been wonderful. And I've seen families sort of comment on things on social media, and I know from people I know personally that there are families out there saying, well, this has been really good for my child. What do I do with that information even once this is all over and schools can fully reopen because there's no more health crisis someday? What do I do with the fact that my child really does well online? And there are a variety of reasons for that. I saw somebody with an older child post that it's really helped their child because their child has some issues, socialization issues and issues with the other kids and bullying and stuff. And now that isn't in the forefront of the child's head. The child can concentrate on the actual schoolwork. There are some special needs students who are really, really struggling with online learning, but there are others because I know them.
There are others who are thriving on
really
it.
Well, yes, they have done really well. We need to remember that just because someday we may have a treatment and or vaccine and we can more fully reopen, that doesn't mean we should then go, okay, tough patooties, people who did well virtually.
We don't care. We want you back in the building. Yeah.
They should still be offered at least a hybrid model if they have done well. And if their families can be home. And which leads me to families right now, and dare I say, from now on, all eternity, should be able to make quality choices based on quality delivery of content so that they can figure out what works best for them and their children in their lives. I think that it is true that there's that in-person learning, people keep saying there's nothing like in-person learning. And to some extent that's true. But there are some people who, for a variety of reasons, need choice. And so if we don't beef up our practices, they're not getting that choice.
Right. There's so many different ways that people learn. Like even as an adult, everybody learns differently. Some people learn better when they're by themselves and they can fully focus on their work. Some people need a group. Some people need to listen. Some people need to do, so why do we think let's just put all the kids back in because that's what's best for everybody when it may not be? It may not be. Now that we have this technology and we're getting better at this technology, why not use it for these kids that need it, who learn better that way?
Yeah.
Why are we just putting everybody back in a box, and saying, yep, this is what's best because this is what we believe. We just believe that's what's best for everybody. Well, it's not best for everybody. It's not, and I think that what we went through proved that.
Truly. And I think that government systems really need to think about how they're spending money. So in our state, they announced yesterday that there will be grants available to close the digital divide, the divide between children who can afford technology and electronics for digital learning and those who cannot, which is a great step. Here's the thing, though. Part of being able to learn digitally is the bandwidth of internet, and I know very little bit about this. So if you're you're listening to this and you have better knowledge, feel free to contact us. But my understanding is that some people are struggling not with that they don't have a device, but that the bandwidth or the speed of their internet service doesn't allow for really good online learning. And so they have to think about, wait a minute, just handing kids devices isn't necessarily the answer.
Yeah.
Also, you're going to hand kids devices, but how much time have the educational systems and the teachers been able to spend improving the virtual teaching practices? So you can hand kids all the devices in the world, but if our practices don't continue to improve, that's a problem.
Yeah.
You know, those of us who are part of the educational world when it was in person and hopefully will be again, we are required to do a certain amount of professional development because you don't know what you don't know. You can only find that out when you go to learn.
True.
And because things are constantly evolving and changing, and we need to always know that as new and better information and practices come out, you don't know what you don't know. So you have to go and learn and improve your practices for these children. My fear is that people are looking through a very narrow lens right now on what needs to be done to prepare. And I think, again, primary clue that they're looking through a narrow lens is they're not allotting enough time for people to prepare this.
No, I feel like there is no time to prepare for whatever it is. And I feel like it's almost like you have to prepare, even if your district decides, like, we're going to go back in person full time. Let's just say that's their decision. I still
because
feel
you live in a rural area with no people.
Yeah, you might live in an area with no people or whatever it may be, you know, or the whatever.
Because most places are going to be hybrid. But if you happen to live in an area where there's less people and you're a person, go ahead.
Or, yeah, maybe you live in a state where it wasn't really badly hit or something like that. Okay. Teachers, I think, are still in their mind being like, but I still have to plan for both because at any moment we're going to close. You know, at any moment, yeah, this is their plan today on July 20th or whatever it is.
Right.
5 days from now, something might happen and change your plan. So I feel like you're planning for both, but I feel like the more teachers know, the better they can prepare for it. So like, if I know I'm going to do hybrid, then I'm like, okay, now I know. But if my district's like, okay, we're going to go 100%, then I'll plan for 100% in person and kind of fiddle around a little bit with hybrid. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, we're going to do hybrid. You're like, okay. You need to wrap your head around what you're getting into. I think every teacher needs something in order to like have a plan. It's like when you get your class list, you're like, okay, now I know what I have. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that. But like, there's so much up in the air, you can't even prepare your mind for it anymore. You can't psychologically prepare, let alone lesson plan or anything like that. You can't mentally get in it. You don't know what it is.
No, and being ready to do whatever the new schedules are going to be, or the staggered arrivals or staggered days, or whatever these new schedules are going to be.
Yes.
There's so much that goes into that. And it can't just be, okay, we're going to take on this new way of doing things. And we have figured out the busing schedule. We have figured out how to move around hallways or not. And we have figured out how to take everybody's temperature. And we have figured out hand sanitizing. The ability to seamlessly implement curriculum can't be like, oh, and that. And that curriculum thing. It can't. So
I feel like that's kind of what it's turning into, is like,
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but it's
that
just
the
my
curriculum
experience.
is going to turn into like a secondary thing, and the health is becoming the priority, which in a way, I understand that.
Yeah, I do.
But if the whole goal is to get children into school to learn curriculum and skills and develop and all that stuff, then that needs to also be a priority. You can't just be like, okay, we know how to do this, and the safety and the health and the temperatures and the bus and this, and here's your red light, green light to go in the hallway, and all this stuff that you have to remember. Oh, and by the way, maybe we'll learn today. You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
I don't know.
It's a lot to handle. It's a lot.
It's a hot mess. It's just a hot mess. I'm hearing, what I've heard people say are things like, we have a curriculum committee, Cindy. Our curriculum committee doesn't know what to do because we don't know what model we'll be on.
They don't know what to do. Yeah.
So I understand. But you have to start, your curriculum committee has to be ready to have information for teachers to absorb ahead of time about how are we doing the curriculum in a hybrid model, how are we doing the curriculum totally virtually,
and how
are we going to make those shifts with the curriculum that we have, and in fact, are we able to make those shifts with the curriculum as it exists, or does our curriculum committee now need to sit and make some modifications
the
to the existing
needs to
curriculum,
change.
right?
Yeah.
Right? Does the curriculum need to change? Or maybe the curriculum doesn't need to change, but your methods of delivering on Zoom or Google Classroom, whatever, need to change.
On point. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes. There you go.
Yeah.
Things are going to have to change, people. They just do. Like, I don't know. I think, like, maybe people are coming around to realize that
I don't know.
the relationships you have with these children are paramount, you know, like, and you need to focus on this social emotional learning, especially when we go back, because holy cow, is there going to be a lot of social emotional learning that needs to take place. There's going to be a lot of anxiety, and there's going to be a lot of, I think we're starting to come around to be like, that might be more important. That should be our focus. And then everything else comes after that. Once you have,
and still you have to be reaching every individual child, and we have to be offering the sort of developmentally appropriate learning that we're supposed to be offering. I can't tell you how many teachers I have been on Zoom with, and Alison knows, I am always saying to her, oh, I was just observing a class.
She's always saying that.
Today I observed 3 classes, right? And I work with the teachers to improve what they're doing. Okay, I can't tell you how many, because it's so many that it's shocking. How many teachers who have been using Zoom for months now, I have to say to them, you should really be doing that on the Zoom whiteboard. It's these little, like, you have to beef up what you're doing. And I'll say to them here, and they'll be like, oh, I haven't explored the whiteboard. And I get them on my account where I can be the host and bring up the whiteboard, and I show them all they can do on it with children. And they're like, wow, that sort of thing needs to be taught to people. Because
we were thrown into it in March. And they were like, we're going to use Zoom or Google Meet or whatever it is that your district decided to use. And you're like, and we had seriously 45 minutes in a meeting to learn how to do Google Meet and I still was like, I don't know what I'm doing. It was me going home, getting on the Google Meet and being like, let me fiddle around a little bit. And I still don't know 100% of it because I had to teach at the same time I was learning myself. So like now those teachers that are still teaching, the ones that you're observing, they're still in it. They don't have time to be like, you know, they have your 8-hour day where they're teaching kids, and then they go home and they don't want to think about Zoom anymore. You know,
right. And I think it
needs to be some professional development about it or something.
There does. And the fact that I'm online with teachers, half of my time is spent on developmentally appropriate practice and curriculum when I speak to them after an observation. But the other half of the time is spent on things like, here's when you need to mute everybody. Here's when you need to use the whiteboard. Here's what you should put in a document to screen share. Here's, you know, and so it's like these mechanics that we've had to learn about whatever software they're using. Plus, now how are we still doing curriculum in a hands-on, developmentally appropriate way in these tiny little boxes?
Yes.
So it's kind of like both. And I know from firsthand experience that teachers need and want more knowledge about doing what we're doing this way. And I worry that the time is being wasted.
I think it is being wasted.
Oh,
I think it absolutely is. And then we're going to have the same situation where all of a sudden your state is going to say, hey, listen, next week, school's closed. You know, for whatever.
Parents are going to be like, I hate this remote learning. It's not as valuable. And let me tell you something, folks. I have seen people struggle, but I have also seen some awesome distance teaching.
Yeah.
I get on some sessions to observe teachers, and I am floored by what they have figured out, what they have done, how they're approaching their curriculum, and even the online resources that they have found that children can interact with on their screens. And I mean, I am sometimes I am done with the observation and I say to teachers, you should host your own preschool show. That was awesome. And even the level of interaction where they have kids with things right in front of them, manipulating things that they're talking about online, and everybody's active in the session. Distance teaching can't be a passive TV show. It has to be the sort of TV show you're involved with. It reminds me when I was a kid, Alison, I may have mentioned this before in the podcast. when I was a kid and Romper Room was a show that was on TV.
Oh yeah.
Right? And my parents bought me everything to go along with the Romper Room teacher. So I had romper stompers that you would like walk on, like these,
Nice.
I don't know, it's hard to describe.
Yeah.
And I had the Mr. Doobie puppet, and I had all the tools that they used online. And the teacher on Romper Room would say to us, go get your romper stompers, and Cindy had them.
Yeah.
And this is what we need to be doing. We need to be spending money on materials to ensure that the children have materials so that we can have interactive sessions online. And we know that you have Legos at home, and we know that you have counting bears at home, and we know that you have puzzles at home, and we know that you have the book at home, and we know we need to be spending money that way, in addition to making sure that the digital divide is closed both through devices and bandwidth. And we need to be spending money and time and be willing to do that, to really up the quality of our distance teaching in a variety of ways. And I know education budgets are being cut. I know everybody's budgets are being cut. I know it's an issue, but if you can find grant money,
find something.
Then you can find grant money for this too. I don't I'm frustrated, as everyone is listening to me whine now for probably about 20 minutes.
Well, you know what though, it's been a frustrating couple weeks here. I mean, for everyone, because I think the districts are starting to get their plans together, and this is happening, and then the teachers hear it, and the admin who's been putting in all these things. It's just exhausting. It's exhausting. And you still, at the end of the day, don't know what's happening. So,
it's so
attend meetings and all this, and you still don't know what's going on.
Oh my God. So these teachers that I'm working with, and we're working so hard with the schools and organizations I work with to help teachers improve their practices, right? Yeah. Weeks and weeks and weeks of this through the summer for people who are working in the summer.
Yeah.
And and we're working so hard on it. At the end of every call, we're like, what do you think's going to happen?
We just talked about it for 3 hours, but we don't know.
What do you think's going to happen? Such a crazy time.
Crazy.
Who would have ever thought that education could be so impacted?
Yeah, I know.
Like it has been. This is just an unbelievable time. And I do hope that people start to look around and go, curriculum, that can't be an afterthought. No matter how this is going to turn out, you have to have a plan. So just like you have to have a plan for busing and for use of the building, you've got to be outlining multiple curriculum methods right now and really digging into your curriculum and deciding what's the best way to present this online. How can we still make it active and interactive and engaging for young children? What do we do? And it's just an endless puzzle. In some ways, though, it's kind of like in early childhood education, we have now formal pieces of curriculum that people can purchase that are really high quality. A bunch of them are really high quality. So we had reached the point where we have access to high quality practices and materials in early childhood classrooms in person, and it's like the universe just upped the ante. Now that you have figured out what's truly developmentally appropriate, you have the materials to do that in person, we're going to up the ante and challenge you and give you this whole distance teaching thing where you don't know what you're doing.
Right. But those curriculums, those ones that you're talking about, those companies, if they were smart, they would add in an online component and sell that too as part of their little box. You know what I mean?
So I happen to know that one of them is. I don't know about all of them, maybe more than one. I happen to know. Alison knows probably which one I'm talking about because she knows who I have some dealings with. But and not directly, it's indirect dealings, by the way. Yeah. But
that would be
she knows
smart.
Which one I know the best.
Yeah,
and
I know.
they are developing the distance piece of it. I don't know how that's exactly going to unroll. I'm actually going to be on a webinar about that next week.
Ooh, nice.
I do hope that if you feel like, I guess two things. If you are an educator and you feel like I need more sooner, that you express that. And I hope that if you're a parent and you think, I am able to and would like to have my child do distance experience distance teaching rather than go in person. However, I didn't really like how they did it. You need to voice that too. You need to go to your district and say, listen, I don't want to send my kids. And the way that your teachers were offering this, I feel like it could improve. And do it in a constructive way, right? I feel like it could improve because here's what I think my child needs.
Here's what I would like to see. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It has to be constructive. It can't just be complaining. When people complain, no one listens. It has to offer possible solutions and be constructive.
Yeah.
Which is like an episode for the future where we talk about, you can't just complain about what's happening. You have to offer a viable solution to your issue.
Yeah, or at least be open to hear what the options are. You might not have the solution yourself, but you need to be open to be like, but I'm willing to listen to what you think might, you know what I mean? And then you
I suspect you and I suspect you and I will be talking about this as the school year unrolls and people start to complain about what's happening.
It'd be so much fun.
As things unfold, make sure you stay with the podcast because we're recording much more close to the release date than we did originally on our podcast because our topics now are so situation specific that we can't record something and then release it.
It's like current events every week now.
It is. We're your early childhood current event people.
Yeah.
All right, Allison. So why don't you tell people what we'd like them to do before we sign off? What do we want people to do?
The 5 stars. We want to get 5 for my YouTube peeps right there. 5 stars. We want you to like our page. See, Cindy, you do this so much better because I'm just like.
All right, I relinquished.
I know you did. Not a good thing. And if you want to write us, you can write us on our Facebook page, How Preschool Teachers Do It podcast on Facebook, or our website, howpreschoolteachersdoit.com. You can always reach us on there. We'd love to hear from you. And, the 100th episode is coming up. Don't forget to write your questions to us. Ask us anything. See, hey, I actually did that. That was pretty good.
You did well. It's your job now.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. Congratulations. It's your responsibility in the podcast.
I need
Preschool peeps. We'll go debate this and let you all go, preschool peeps. And we will catch you next Monday on How Preschool Teachers Do It.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.